Hello and welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anna Cha. I'm an environmental photographer, filmmaker, and eco-travel blogger. Today I want to set all this aside and tell you about one of the most sustainable and amazing way to travel the world. So really I think it's an amazing solution to exploring new places but also keeping sustainability in mind. And so that is woofing, as you must know the title of this video. So I'll answer all the questions you may have regarding woofing, what it is, what are the best places to go woofing, how to get involved in the first place, etc. all throughout the video, so definitely stick around. But let's get right into the first topic, which is what is woofing? So woofing stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, hence the strange acronym woofing. And so essentially when you sign up to become a woofer, you're signing up to learn and help on an organic farm, usually abroad, but you can also do it in your own country. And one thing I want to mention right off the bat that it's really important to understand is that there's absolutely no money exchange between you, the woofer, and the host. So it is a volunteer opportunity. You're not going to make any money and the other person is not going to ask any money from you. So I think that's really important to understand before we get in the rest of the explanation. But what is really interesting about a woofing exchange is that you're going to be housed and fed by your host in exchange, of course, for your work. So you're supposed, well, the woofing chart says that you're supposed to work 4 to 5 hours a day on the farm except for weekends. So you're working 5 days a week for 4 to 5 hours on the farm. And in exchange for that, they'll house you and feed you. So that's really the interesting part of the woofing experience, is that you're learning something new, you're learning new skills, you're also helping out and volunteer on the farm in exchange for accommodation and for food. So hopefully that answers a little bit of what the hell is woofing, but let's move on to the second question, which is, what are the benefits of woofing? So of course, before you want to take part in an experience, you want to know what the benefits of that experience are. And for me, I think, having been a woofer before, I think my favorite part of woofing and one of the benefits I see is really meeting new people. So it's a way to connect outside of your circle and meet people who are doing really interesting things in the agricultural sense and the environmental sense. So that would be number one for me, is meeting new people. Second is, of course, an amazing way to travel sustainably. Your ecologic impact is going to be really low. You're also going to be helping on an organic farm, which definitely adds point on the environmental charge. So it really is an amazing way to travel as sustainably as possible. Number three, some people like to woof for practicing a new language they've been learning. So for example, let's say I wanted to practice my Spanish, so I would want to look into volunteering in a Spanish-speaking country. So that's another benefit of woofing. Another one I think is, obviously, learning new skills. So if you're not an acquired farmer or specialize in organic agriculture, you're definitely going to be learning a lot of new skills. My first experience was in the Pyrenees in France, so in my own home country. I'm from France, and I learned a lot about potato farming. Who knew? But I knew nothing about potato farming, and now I am full of that knowledge that maybe one day I will share with you. And another benefit for me is the ability to explore off the beaten path locations. So obviously a lot of the woofing farms are located in rural areas that usually wouldn't get a lot of tourist attraction, and so you're really sort of doing off the beaten path travel, which I definitely love. So yeah, let's move on to the next question. And the next question is, where is woofing available? So where can you go? Where can you start daydreaming of going? And so let's go through a short list. It's not all inclusive, but those are some of my favorite options for woofing. Definitely feel free to look it up on your own if you'd like to see what other countries offer woofing. So number one is Ireland. Yes, Ireland. You could go woofing in Ireland. You're picturing it. There's sheep, there's rolling hills, it's green, it's sunny, there's beautiful skies. That is Ireland for you. Ireland can be quite an expensive destination to travel to, so going there to woof is a great way to cut the cost of travel by a lot by not having to pay accommodation or food. So definitely consider that, especially if in Europe. It's really easy to get there. So yeah, Ireland, top of the list. Second one, I'm super biased, but it's France, especially if you love wine and you'd like to volunteer on an organic vineyard. That's a great place to start. France is sort of the home of wine making, so that is where I volunteered and did my first woofing experience. Although I wasn't winemaking, it was in France. It was in the south, in the Pyrenees, the beautiful, beautiful mountains. And so on my off time in the weekend, I did a lot of hiking. So that was really amazing. Number 3 is still in Europe. I'm mentioning a lot of European places because this is where I'm based currently, so that would make the most sense for me because I can take the train there or have less of a longer flight and have less of an environmental impact while traveling. So third one is Italy. Obviously, Italy. Lots of olive oil making, lots of tomatoes. They're growing a lot of the traditional Mediterranean diet staples, and I mean, it's a really great place to be. Italy is really fun. It's rather small, so on the weekend you could go explore different cities. So Italy would definitely also be on the top of my list. All right, getting a bit more exotic and off the beaten path, another place that also offers a lot of woofing opportunities is Nepal. I know, who knew? But you could go to Nepal and volunteer at an organic farm there. And obviously, if you want to do treks on the side, that's going to be really expensive. But otherwise, Nepal is quite an affordable country, so that would be an affordable destination to also consider. Next up is New Zealand. I've always dreamt of going to New Zealand. Never had the opportunity to, but who knows, maybe one day. But the landscapes look completely mind-blowing, and I know they're really into outdoor sports, so there's a lot of opportunities to go kayaking, bungee jumping, hiking, and all of that. So New Zealand is a really attractive destination for woofing as well. Last one of the list is one that I have been to in a country that I really, really love, which has amazing sustainable agriculture, and it's really something that the government cares about there, and it's Costa Rica. And Costa Rica is also amazing because you have the forest, you have the beach, you have a ton of different ecosystems, an enormous amount of biodiversity, so it really would be an amazing place to go and woof at. So here's for the list of countries. There's of course a couple more. There's more in Europe. There's also America, which I haven't mentioned. I mean, United States, which also offers woofing. So definitely do your research, but these are just the top of my list for woofing. All right, next up is the question of cost and how much does woofing actually cost. So on paper, woofing doesn't cost anything, but of course there's always those hidden fees with everything. So there is a fee for subscribing to the service. So it's an online platform that you just pay a membership for. And it's important to note that there is no international membership. So paying one subscription will only cover one country. So I paid 30 euros for the subscription in France. Let's say I wanted to go woofing in Italy, then I would have to pay another 30 euros. This is important because all these little costs can add up, but if you're comfortable with that, you can register on as many woofing countries as you'd like, and I think the price for the subscription usually ranges between 30 and 40 bucks. In terms of other costs that would come, I would say food, because sometimes the weekend is a bit of a blurry zone and you're not sure your hosts are actually going to feed you, or if you're going on your own adventures, they're definitely not going to give you, a stipend for you to spend. You'll have to spend your own money. Airfare, of course, if you're flying, nothing is covered really. So you just have to prep for that. Nothing is covered outside of your accommodation while you're working on the farm. On the weekend, you also have an accommodation. Of course, you can stay there and not work. It's like a weekend off and you're still housed. And in terms of food, I think it's every day that you're on the farm, you'll receive food. But outside of that, if you're going to do your own exploration, you'll have to pay for it. So these are just costs to keep in mind if you're considering woofing. Another question is regarding whether there is an age limit to woofing. So I know you can start woofing as early as 17 years old, and that's only in Portugal, I believe. After that, you'll have to be 18. and there is no age limit on the other side of the spectrum. So you can be as old as you'd like, that's not a problem, as long, of course, as you can carry out the physical duties, because they can be quite taxing. You're working 5 hours a day on an organic farm, planting, crouching, just doing quite intense physical and manual labor. So something to keep in mind if you're 89 and you'd like to go woofing. Alright, getting to the most important part of the discussion is actually how do you go about becoming a woofer? So, I mean, there's a couple steps, but it's rather easy. I did my application in, I think it was May 2020, so not that long ago. And you just log onto the website, and not being a member, you can already start browsing farms. But anytime you want to start writing a message and ask if you could be taken on this farm, then you'll have to pay the subscription and become a member. So you pay it for $30, you enter on that website and you become a member, and that allows you to message anyone in the region of which you bought the subscription. So let's say I'm in France, I can browse as many farms as I want and send messages to see if those people would be willing to take me on their farm. So the website's pretty intuitive, there's a bunch of filters, so you can sort of tailor your research. If there's a particular region you want to visit, if there's a particular interest, you can add that you're vegetarian or vegan or the language you speak. So it's really easy to tailor your research to find the perfect farm for you. Once you do that, you send the message. They may or may not answer you, and if you get a positive response, then you have to accept the offer and off you go. You agree on a date and you go and volunteer in a stranger's house for a couple days, a couple months. I mean, there's different periods. There's some people who allow longer stay, there's some people who favor shorter stays, so it's really up to the host, and that's determined. That's set on the website, so don't worry about it. You'll have all the information you need right on the website. I will say it's important to write a profile description and to add a photo. I mean, these people don't know you, so it really is helpful for them to get sort of a visual reference of who you are and some text about what you do, why you're interested in learning more about agriculture and organic agriculture especially. So definitely make sure you write that bio. So yeah, that's how you become a woofer. As easy as that. Another question I think is really worth addressing is how are you supposed to find the right farm for you? It's a bit of a gamble. You know, you're not really sure. You're getting pictures of the farm, you're getting also a bio of your host and what they're doing on the farm, but you'll never know what it's actually like to be there physically. So it is quite a gamble, and I think it's really important to keep your mind as open as possible. You may have the best experience in your life, or you may end up working on a farm that you don't really like for the next 8 days. And that's okay, because you'll still be learning something. They're willingly putting themselves out there to receive the help. So usually farmers want you to be there, and they want to be teaching what they're doing. So anyhow, you'll always be learning something new, either about the skill set of being an organic farmer, or even about yourself. So it's always worth to keep an open mind. In terms of strategically how to find the best farm, I think it's filters. Use the filters, so make sure you sort of know which region you want to go to, or if you're a particular interest in, let's say you want to make goat cheese, you want to know how to make goat cheese, then you can sort of tailor that research and find a couple farms, send a message, see sort of how the vibe goes on in the messages, and then make a decision. Just go for it. If you just sit and wonder which farm to pick, you'll end up picking none of them, because there's a lot of woofers that are also wanting a space. So just go for it, take the plunge. That's my advice in regards to finding the right farm for you. Lastly, let's talk about what to pack when you're going woofing. I've always liked packing lists. I think they're really helpful. So I'll just run a couple things that I brought on my first experience woofing that were super, super helpful. So number one is a good pair of rubber boots. Rubber boots are absolutely awesome. They're all terrain. You're probably going to be mucking around in the mud, I'm assuming, especially if it's raining. It was raining for 5 days straight, so the weather was really horrible. But you know what, I still had an amazing experience, so that goes to say you can have the worst weather and still have a good experience woofing. So yeah, rubber boots, sunscreen, a hat. I would say bring stylish outfits if you want to for the days you have off and you're going to be exploring, but you are going to get dirty. I mean, this is farming. You know, bring an old t-shirt and some khaki pants, or I don't think they're called khaki pants actually. I think they're called cargo pants. That's it, cargo pants. So bring a pair of cargo pants, some shorts. Just make sure you're comfortable in whatever you're wearing. Of course, bring sneakers. Reusable water bottle is an absolute must anytime you're traveling. All your reusable containers and cutleries and whatnot I would also bring along. I always enjoy having a bandana on me. I think that's really helpful when I'm working with my long hair as a way to tie it back. So that's something you could also consider bringing with you. Yeah, and I think, oh no, one thing I did want to mention is that yes, your hosts are going to be feeding you, and I mean, from my experience, the food was amazing because it was straight off the farm. But if you're a big snacker and you don't always want to be nagging your host for snacks, I would bring your own stash of snacks, especially if you get hungry throughout the day. So you want to be as independent as you can. And on that note, I would also mention that not all the hosts provide bedding, so if you have a sleeping bag, I would definitely bring that one, and make sure to check with your host what their situation is and if they need you to bring bedding, because usually they will. Some might not. So yeah, okay. You know, I think that sort of wraps up the talk about woofing and why it's amazing, why it's one of the most sustainable way to travel today and discover new places, meet new people, immerse in a new language, learn about organic farming. There's all of that that comes into play with woofing. So I personally really enjoyed my first experience, and I will definitely do it again once I'm traveling again. And yeah, that's just something that will always be available, and that I think is just a really amazing networking and sort of self-development opportunity that you can take part into. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that video. If you did, click the thumbs up button, leave me comments if you have positive comments or questions or anything. I'll be sure to answer, and make sure you subscribe. Yeah, thanks so much, and see you in the next upload.